a missionary that was in Africa, and he was out in the field, out in the brush, whatever, and a lion jumped out, and he immediately dropped down and prayed, and the lion just went right by him and took off. And then that night, when he's trying to go to sleep, he had a mosquito that kept bugging him, and he didn't get any sleep all night. And the next morning when he was praying, he said, God spoke to him and said, "You prayed to me about the lion, but not about the mosquito." And we tend to do that. Should have lifted up both. All right. Anything else? By the way, did any of you look at or read any of the show notes, those articles, or any of that? Show notes, the articles, off of the podcast. You don't watch the pod or listen to the podcast? Okay. Well, there were several articles she talked about, so I just curious. Mm-hmm. Yep. So the first thing, I'm just going to go down the list of these questions that I wrote up from and gave to you last week. But how does Jesus instruct the disciples to respond if people don't listen to him?
Shake the dust off their feet.
Yes, shake the dust off their feet. And then what did Jesus say? It would be more tolerable than what? More tolerable than Sodom and Gomorrah than it will be for that city. What happened to Sodom and Gomorrah? Yeah, cremated. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And So we should always listen, right? Don't ever reject the message from God. Who will go with them to prepare the people to help them to respond when they are accused of something, when they're arrested? Who is it? In the Spirit, yeah. And not only to help them to know what to say, but the Spirit also helps the people to be attentive and to listen. For without that, people cannot really understand unless the Spirit helps them. Why did Herod have John the Baptist imprisoned?
Concerning his relationship with his sister-in-law.
Yes, sister-in-law. He took his sister-in-law as his wife. Yeah, and the thing was that he was her uncle too. So was her first husband. They were both her uncle. She was Herod the Great's granddaughter by one of the other sons. Yeah. So it was not only marrying his brother's wife, but it was his niece. That was probably as much of a problem as the other, because in the Old Testament, when a man died, and I don't remember what happened to Herod's brother. Is it Philip? I don't remember now. So I don't remember for sure, but if he died, then it was his responsibility to care for but not when it's your niece. That was all that was wrong. So a little bit later, Herod has a birthday. I think it was a birthday, but he has a party anyway. And he invites his great niece, Herodias' daughter, to dance for him. And what happened?
He really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
He gave her a gift.
A gift up to half his kingdom. And what did she ask for?
John the Baptist's head.
And why?
Because her
Mother said, ask for John the Baptist's head, right? And even though Herod didn't really want to do that, he had it done.
Yeah, he'd already talked too loud in front of everybody.
Yep.
But he said, yeah.
Okay.
It just stands out to me that a lot of those rulers got caught like that.
Yeah,
But I'll give you whatever you want.
right.
And then when they come out with it, they wish you hadn't.
Yes. Yes. Wish they hadn't have made that statement. Yeah. So one of my favorite stories, it's the only miracle other than Jesus' resurrection that's in all four Gospels, is the feeding of the 5,000. Tell me as much about that story as you can think of.
Which 5,000? Oh, no, there's 4,000 and the other.
Yes.
5 loaves and 2 fish
Had 5 loaves and 2 fish
from some little boy.
from a boy, yeah.
And they had been listening for a long time. Now, they didn't say 3 days like they did with the 4,000.
Right. But all day anyway.
And it was dark, and they were away from home, and they were hungry, and the disciples learned something too.
Yes, they did.
They handed
Well.
the fish to Jesus, and Jesus broke them and handed them out to the
Right.
that they fed 5,000
Men.
plus women. And
Plus women and children. Most people think around 15,000 people.
And one of them, I guess, I don't know which one it was, one of them grouped up in thousands, but the other one, I think, was in 500s or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't catch that, but I'm sure it's just getting them into groups is the important part.
I think that would take a long time
Yeah,
to just get it distributed. let
Right.
it be eaten
Yeah.
and picked up and.
yeah. So
I'm sure they did.
what happened the night before? The night before the feeding of 5,000? I'm sorry. That's the night after. Never mind. I'll come back to that.
Disciples in the boat to Galilee. but
Right.
went to the mountain to pray.
Yes.
And he came out later.
Yes, he did.
Because there was a storm.
There was a storm,
They were all scared, yeah.
and he came out walking on the water. Yeah, I said the night before, but it was the night after. How many baskets full were left over? 12. What happened to those 12 basketfuls?
They got picked up. That's all I know.
Yeah? The Bible doesn't say. I've heard a couple of different stories about this. That I like them both. First, this little boy, he has 5 loaves and 2 fish. 5 loaves and the 2 fish could be more of a pasty kind of thing that they put on the bread. That's more than a little boy would eat. So a lot of people think that he brought that. His mom probably said, "Here, take this. When you go, sell it because we need the money." And it could have been that he was taking it up there to sell. And then Andrew finds him and takes him to Jesus. And Andrew is always, in the Bible, every time you see him, just about he's bringing somebody to Jesus. But it's the one, somebody that talked about that, maybe that this little boy came home with 12 baskets full of stuff now that they could sell. Another story I like about it says that there's 12 basketfuls and there's 12 disciples, right? So each one of them took one. And they were here, they took their basket, and he said, I can see them on the boat, sitting in the boat, have this little basket of leftovers right here, and the storm comes up, and they get really scared, and everything's going on, the wind and the waves and all of that stuff. And Mark says, how did they put it? That they didn't learn or they didn't remember the lesson of the feeding of the 5,000, lesson of the loaves, which is why they were scared and why they. Yeah.
So fearfully asked them.
Yes. Is that in Mark?
Yes.
Yeah. Keep going.
Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? And they feared exceedingly and said to one another, who can this be that even the wind and the sea obey him?
Okay. It must not have been Mark. I really thought it was Mark. One of them says that something about them not remembering or not. I don't think it's John. Anyway, if y'all want to look, one of you want to look. I should have marked that. Do you remember what chapter it was in Mark?
The fourth chapter in verse about 39.
Okay, Matthew 14.
Of John?
It's John 6, but I don't think it's in John 6. Okay. Try Luke. I know I'm not just...
Matthew, the 8th chapter, says, now, when he got into the boat, his disciples followed him, and suddenly a great tempest arose on the sea, so that the boat was covered with waves, but he was asleep. And his disciples came to him and woke him, saying, Lord, save us, we are perishing. But he said to them, why are you fearful, O you little faith? Then he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. So the men marveled, saying, who can this be, that even the winds and the sea obey him?
Is that where it ends?
Uh-huh.
Oh, here we go.
They find themselves at the shore, and demoniac is healed.
Okay, I'll try to find it later and tell you. Okay, I'm something though about them not learning the lesson of the loaves and having it right there at their feet. So after that, they have the storm. Jesus comes walking on the water. He calms the storm. Well, before he calms the storm, what happens?
We talked about when he's walking, he invites Peter to come out.
Yeah, Peter said, if it's really you, command me to come out there. And Jesus said, come. And he did.
He was fine until he lost faith.
Fine until he took his eyes off of Jesus and put it on the waves, right? And we do the same kind of thing. When we start looking at our circumstances and start looking at the storms that are going around us, that's when we falter. But remember, what about the other 11? You ever thought about them? The other 11.
He stayed solidly in the boat.
They said, yeah. Well, I don't know about solid, but they stayed in the boat. The boat was kind of still going every which way. But, yeah, they did not have the faith to step out in the wave like Peter did. Peter,
He's a rock. That's how he was.
yeah. He was very impetuous, and he had, as several preachers I've heard in the past say, he had foot and mouth disease. He was always putting his foot in his mouth, yeah. Every time he turned around, he'll say something, and then it's like, oh, no, but shouldn't have said that.
Enlightened when they reminded us that these were teenagers.
Yes, yeah. And one of the things she talked about, the paying the temple tax, I'm wondering if Peter wasn't already 20. I mean, he was married. He was the only one, as far as we know, that was already married. So I'm wondering he might have been just a little older than the others.
In that culture, you get married as early as 7.
Well, the women did. The men didn't usually. So, yeah, they got married early. So then Jesus, he gets in the boat, and then they immediately find themselves on the other side. They get out, and then what happens?
Is that one demoniac?
No, it's a different one. At least I don't think. Yeah, no, that's not that one. All of the people track him down.
The one saying, how'd you get over here?
Yeah. How did Jesus respond to them when they were asking that? Hmm?
He was correcting their motives for
Yes.
being there. They weren't following him because they believed in him. They were following him because
They were hungry.
they were hungry.
It's time to eat again. Let's get another free meal. And then they bring up the fact that Moses gave our ancestors bread from heaven. Is that true? No.
Moses asked for help from God.
Yes, God gave them the bread, not Moses. And then, let me think, where am I at here? And then they asked for a miracle. And again, it wasn't because they believed. They wanted to be entertained. They wanted to be fed. They wanted, basically wanted Jesus to perform and act for them.
It just seems like he already has been.
Yes,
Where have these people been?
that's right. And then there's two verses in John 6 that are very important. One of them says, in John 6:44, it says, "No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I will raise him up on the last day." What does that mean? No one can come to me unless the Father who has sent me draws him.
Holy Spirit and conviction.
The Holy Spirit and conviction, the only way that we ever get to Jesus. It's not anything on our own, right? Because if we're left to our own devices, we're going to go the other way. We're going to be completely rejecting him. It is only through the conviction of the Spirit and God drawing us to him. And I believe that's true for Christians too. The only way we can actually come and follow him and do the things that he's called us to do is because he initiates it in our lives. He's the one that does the work. And he blesses us when we allow him to do the work, but he's the one that's doing it all. And then one of the saddest verses in the whole Bible, in John 6:66, which 666 always reminds me, must be a bad verse, right? It says, "From this time, many of his disciples turned back and no longer followed him." First of all, it says disciples. Is this talking about Christians? That many turned back and no longer followed him?
There was a lot more disciples than just.
It wasn't just the 12, right? 12 stayed there.
All of those that he fed had been called disciples because they followed him.
Because they followed him. And they listened.
Yeah.
It's somebody who learns from you, a learner. But I don't believe they would truly believe that Jesus was or is God. I think that they were there for other reasons. But when the going got tough, when Jesus started telling them things or describing things, explaining things that didn't agree with their theology, then they turned around and they left. And I truly believe same thing's going to be happening, or same thing is happening. I think there's a lot of people that when things get difficult, and I think it will be getting more and more difficult to be a Christian, and there'll be a great falling away. A lot of people are going to turn around. How did Peter respond when Jesus said, "Are you not going to?"
Well, I'll follow you to death.
Yeah. He said, "Lord, where should we go? You have the words of eternal life. And we have come to believe and know that you are the Holy One of God. You are the Messiah." Again, later, Peter will say something very similar. And Jesus says that God was the one that revealed that to him. It wasn't just something that he thought of it on his own. But that's how we need to respond.
Did you tell him not to reveal that to anybody?
I don't think he did here.
Being a Messiah.
I don't think he did here, but he did a lot of places because, I think the reason he did for the Jewish people is because the Jewish people had a different idea about the Messiah.
He was afraid they were going to try to make him king.
Yeah, or just view him as king, and he wasn't. That's not why he came the first time. That's why he's coming back, but that's not why he came the first time. And he had what he needed to do and what he wanted to do, and that was not part of it at that time. So, in Matthew 15, the Pharisees complained about Jesus and the disciples not washing their hands before they ate. Does that mean they were eating with dirty hands?
Could be. But that
Could be. I mean, they were fishermen, right?
was a human tradition, not a divine command.
That's right. And it was a tradition. It was something that they did, but it had nothing to do with having clean hands. It was a ceremonial thing. Yeah, well, it was like in Passover. During the Passover celebration, they have a little bowl of water. It has a little lemon slice in it, so you know that it's the water and not the salt water. But they take and they put their fingertips in there, and then they shake them out or dry them off or whatever. That's the ceremonial washing. It's not cleaning your hands. Okay, it's just this little ceremony that I do before I eat. And that was a tradition that the Jewish leaders had been teaching for years and years, and that was what they were upset at, that the disciples and Jesus didn't follow their tradition. Was Jesus breaking God's law? No, never did. What has Jesus accused them of doing? Hypocrisy, yeah. What else?
Their own traditions instead of God's commandments.
Right. They're breaking God's commandment but because of their traditions. The example. Do you remember what it was?
Talking about, he said it's not what you put in your mouth, it's what comes out of your mouth.
Well, yeah, but that's a little bit later, or a little different point. This one, he says, in the Jewish tradition, they say that if a young man has money and he doesn't want to use it to take care of his elderly parents, he can say, well, I've dedicated this money to God. Doesn't necessarily mean he's giving it to God.
Name, but not
Yeah, Korban. Doesn't necessarily mean he's giving it to the temple, but he's dedicated to God. So it is going to be used for God's work. And because of that, I can't use it to take care of my parents. So they were breaking the law of God to take care of your family by this tradition of saying, okay, this is dedicated to God. Jesus never broke any of God's laws. He did, I guess you could say, break or at least stretched a lot of man-made traditions. Because he wanted them to understand that a lot of that stuff that they did had nothing to do with God's law. Do we have that going on today? Do we have that in church today? Yeah, I think so. I can't tell you specific, but I imagine there's lots of things. I've told this before also, that I'm sure when we get to heaven, God's going to look at us and just go, why? It was so obvious, so, and you just went right over your head. Okay, what about the Canaanite woman? Wanted Jesus to heal her daughter that was possessed of demons. What went on there? Okay, he was testing. Right. What did Jesus do first? She came and she said, "Come and heal my daughter." What did Jesus do?
It's not meet to give.
Before that one.
Was that where the disciples said,
Yeah, before that.
"Turn her away
What did Jesus do? He ignored her.
You ignored her, that's what I thought.
Yeah. He didn't say anything. And then the disciples say, send her away. She's bugging us, you know. And then Jesus said, well, I only came to the lost sheep of Israel. And then she kept on, and that's when he said, it's not right for for me to take food for the children and feed it to the dogs. Now, the word dog there is not a real derogatory term like we would think, and when we read it, it might think. It's more like to the cute little puppies, okay? And then she said, yes, but even they lick up the crumbs that are on. And then Jesus commends her for her faith and says, I haven't found this faith in Israel, right? And said, fine, your daughter's healed.
Several that we find in this reading so far that Christ found more faith in other nationalities,
Right.
I guess, or
In the Gentiles, anyway.
what they found-
Yeah.
What he found in Israel.
Yep. And I think one of the reasons for that is because in Israel they were so focused on following the laws and the traditions that they didn't, they had lost sight of who God was and the fact that God loved them, and they needed to do His will because of His love. Demon possession, does that still happen today? Is it rarely?
I see a lot of people I think are possessed.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, they call it something else.
I truly believe that there is some, if not a lot, of mental illness that is really demon possession, but we don't call it that and we don't treat it that way. It could be. I mean, I think there's a medical thing too, but because I know Christians that are epileptic and they can't be demon possessed. But some of those same things could be caused from demon possession in other people. What about exorcism? Does that happen today? Not like in the movie, okay? Yeah. I do too. I've heard it. Hmm?
The Catholic Church used to do exorcism.
I had a roommate in college, her dad was a Baptist preacher, and he performed exorcism.
Really? I've never heard of a Baptist doing that. Did it work?
Yeah. Evidently, because she would tell us stories sometimes, because sometimes she would go and
Wow. That's surprising very well.
Anyone else? Okay.
That probably takes faith too.
Oh, definitely. And the thing about it, I don't believe that there is how would you put this, a ritual that has to take place in order for it to happen. If you look at what even the disciples, Jesus gave them power over the demons, and they basically said, be gone, and they were gone. So I think there's a lot of that, exorcism, a lot of miracles, healings and stuff that are happening more so in like third world countries than in the United States or Europe, because we've become too intellectual and we don't have the faith that they have. We've kind of lost a lot.
A lot of the miracles were performed to prove that Jesus
Right.
was real, and we've got the Bible, and we've got the
That's true, too.
Enlightenment, and where a lot of the other countries don't have, though they are getting it.
Yeah, that's true too. Yep. What does the What does the name Peter mean?
Pebble.
More like pebble, yeah, small rock. As I forgot which preacher it was. One of the preachers from the early 1900s, 1800s. He said it's a rock small enough that you can pick it up and throw it. as opposed to Petra, which is what Jesus said. He said, upon this rock, and that's more like a mountain or a huge cliff. Yeah, not a little stone. So what did Jesus mean when he says, upon this rock I'll build my church? Okay. Talking about who or what? Okay, confession of faith, that's one interpretation. I'm not going to say it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's one interpretation. What's another?
That the church is going to be built on Peter.
Right, that's another one. I don't agree with that one, but that Jesus was saying, I'm going to build my church on Peter. And Peter was very instrumental in the early church. He was a leader in the early church. And Catholic Church claims him as the very first pope, and that was what they go to this verse and say this is why Jesus was telling Peter he was going to build his church on Peter. It could be.
Yeah, Jesus is the cornerstone.
Yes, Jesus is the cornerstone. I think it's talking about Jesus himself. He said, I'm going to call you little rock here, but upon the rock, upon Jesus himself, I'll build my church. There's a lot of different ways, and there's not, other than I don't think it was talking about Peter. The rest of them are very, very, they could go either way. Let me think, where am I going to go down? Oh, do we have guardian angels today?
Yes.
Yes. And praise the Lord we do, right?
One of those passages that I read this week
Mm-hmm.
said that even their angels rejoice over the little ones. You have to
Right.
watch that they watch over them.
They watch over them, yes. I don't have that.
And that helped me to realize that
Yeah.
I think they watch over us too.
Yes.
I do too, yes.
Yeah.
Our cabinet guy had a grandson that they were always, something about him, he was always afraid that he's going to attack somebody with a knife or kill somebody. And they finally got him off of some medicine that was causing him that. But he showed me a picture of that grandson one day standing on a pier, and beside him was a blurry figure.
Yeah.
He said that we believe it was his angel
Yeah.
watching over him to keep him from falling over that pier.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was or not, but that was the only explanation that they could come up with.
Right.
Because there was nobody there,
Yeah. Yeah.
but the camera caught it.
Yeah. All
He
right.
did give his angels charge over us.
Hmm.
God, he would give his angels charge over
Yes. Yeah.
us.
And give his angels charge to watch over us, which, like I said, praise the Lord for that. We need it, right? Think about all of the different things that could have happened in your life and that didn't, because God was looking out for you. Yeah. Well, I went over a little bit. Not bad. Not bad. Well, let's stand and we'll sing a dismissal chorus and then head to choir.